Marcus Kane pulled his Mercedes to a red light in the forgotten corner of Detroit, where wealth feared to tread. At 45, he'd built his empire far from places like this. Tech companies, real estate portfolios, investments that turned millions into billions. The GPS had taken him through this neighborhood as a shortcut, a decision he now regretted. Outside his tinted windows, decay sprawled in all directions. Boarded buildings, cracked pavement, people who'd stopped hoping. Marcus reached for the lock button instinctively, old prejudices surfacing despite the fortune he'd built from his own humble beginnings. Then he saw the kid, 12, maybe 13 years old, wearing sneakers held together with duct tape and a jacket too thin for Detroit's biting autumn wind. The boy moved down the empty street with singular focus, kicking a crushed soda can with the precision of an artist. Left foot, right foot, controlling the trajectory with movements that seemed almost choreographed. Marcus watched, transfixed. The kid wasn't just kicking a can, he was playing. Each touch deliberate, each movement purposeful. He navigated around potholes and debris with the spatial awareness of someone who'd mapped every inch of this broken street. When the can rolled toward a storm drain, the boy executed a move that stopped it perfectly, then flicked it backward over his shoulder without looking. Something stirred in Marcus's chest, a memory long buried. He'd been that kid once, playing stickball in Philadelphia's worst neighborhood, finding joy in nothing because nothing was all he had. The light turned green. Cars behind him honked. Marcus drove forward, glancing in his rearview mirror as the kid continued his solitary practice, kicking a can on a street the world had forgotten. 3 blocks later, Marcus pulled over, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. He sat there for 5 minutes, wrestling with something he couldn't name. Then he turned the car around. Chapter 2. The Return. The boy hadn't moved far. Marcus found him in what used to be a playground, now just cracked concrete and a rusted basketball hoop without a net. The kid was still playing with his can, creating patterns and rhythms that revealed an intelligence far beyond improvisation. This was practice, refined and intentional. Marcus parked and stepped out. The boy noticed immediately, his body language shifting to wariness. In neighborhoods like this, expensive cars meant trouble, cops, loan sharks, men who took what wasn't theirs. "Easy," Marcus said, keeping his distance. "Just watching you play. You're good." The kid said nothing, dark eyes assessing. He looked younger up close, malnourished with shadows that spoke of adult burdens carried on child shoulders. But those eyes held something Marcus recognized, hunger not of the stomach, but of the soul, desperation to be more than circumstances allowed. "What's your name?" Silence stretched. Then, "Darius, Darius, I'm Marcus." He gestured to the can. "How long you been practicing like that?" "Long as I remember." The boy's voice was careful, revealing nothing. "Why you here?" Marcus struggled for an honest answer. "Because I drove past you earlier and couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. You move like someone who understands the game." "What game?" Darius's tone sharpened. "I'm just killing time." "No, you're training." Marcus moved closer slowly, non-threatening. Every touch was controlled. Every movement had purpose. "That's not killing time. That's preparing for something." Darius's carefully maintained indifference cracked. "Preparing for what? To be poor somewhere else?" The bitterness in that young voice hit Marcus like a fist. "When I was your age, I played basketball on a court worse than this. Told myself I was just passing time too. Took me years to admit the truth. I was practicing because some part of me believed I could be something more. And now you rich." Darius kicked the can hard, sending it clattering into darkness. "Good for you. That story don't help me." Marcus watched the boy's shoulders hunch against the cold and against hope itself, that most dangerous of emotions. He made a decision that would change everything. What if it could? Chapter 3. The Offer. Darius turned, suspicion warring with curiosity. Marcus had seen that look before, in the mirror decades ago, when his high school coach had offered him a scholarship that seemed too good to be real. "What if I told you I see something in you?" Marcus continued. "Potential that's being wasted kicking cans in a dead playground." You don't know nothing about me. I know poverty. I know what it does to dreams. Marcus pulled out his wallet, then thought better of it. Money would insult what he was trying to offer. I grew up in North Philly. My father was in prison. My mother worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on. Teachers wrote me off before I turned 10. Darius's posture shifted slightly. Marcus pressed forward. One man saw something different. Coach Williams. He wasn't rich, wasn't important, but he gave me 3 hours every day, taught me basketball, taught me discipline, taught me that circumstances don't define potential. Marcus's voice roughened. He died before he could see me make it out. I've spent 20 years wondering how to pay that debt. So what, you're going to be my coach? Darius's skepticism remained, but something else entered his voice. Hope, tentative and terrified. I don't know the first thing about coaching, but I know people who do. I know systems that develop talent. I know opportunities that kids in this neighborhood never hear about. Marcus met those wary eyes. What I saw you doing with that can, that's not random. That's the kind of control that translates to real athletics. Soccer, probably. You watch games. Darius looked away, embarrassed. Sometimes, at the community center before they closed it, World Cup stuff. Who's your favorite player? Ronaldo, but that's... Darius stopped himself. Fantasy? Marcus finished. That's what everyone told me about the NBA, until it wasn't fantasy anymore. For the first time, Darius looked at him with something other than suspicion. Marcus saw the question forming, the one that mattered most. He answered before it was asked. I'm offering you a chance. Training, real training, with coaches who develop professional athletes. Education at a private academy. Everything you need to find out if you're as good as I think you might be. Why? The word carried weight. Why me? Marcus smiled sadly. Because I drove past you instead of stopping, and I can't do that again. Giles, Chapter 4. The Decision. Darius lived in a 3rd-floor walk-up that smelled of mildew and generations of broken dreams. Marcus followed him upstairs, covered in linoleum that had peeled decades ago, past doors that hid desperate stories. At the landing, Darius paused, hand on the doorknob. My mom, she ain't gonna trust you. I wouldn't trust me either. Marcus waited. But maybe she'll listen. Inside, the apartment was clean despite its poverty. Furniture salvaged and threadbare but cared for, walls that had been painted by hand, family photos in mismatched frames. A woman emerged from the kitchen, barely 30, but aged by exhaustion. She froze when she saw Marcus, protective instinct flaring. Darius, who? Mom, this is Marcus. Darius struggled to explain the unexplainable. He saw me practicing. He wants to help. Angela Torres, Marcus learned her name in the tense conversation that followed, was everything her son described. Suspicious, protective, worn down by a world that had taken her husband to gang violence and her stability to circumstance. She listened to Marcus's offer with arms crossed, eyes dissecting every word for the lie she knew had to be there. Nobody helps for free, she said finally. What you really want. Marcus had prepared for this. I want to feel like Coach Williams's faith in me wasn't wasted. I want to pass forward what was given to me, but I understand skepticism. You don't know me. Damn right I don't. Angela looked at her son, at the hope beginning to bloom dangerously on his face. This some kind of charity thing? Make yourself feel good about the poor kid? No, this is talent recognition. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her videos of the academy he had in mind, one of the country's premier soccer development programs. If Darius agrees, he'll train with professional coaches. He'll attend their partner school, get education that prepares him for college. Room, board, everything covered through a scholarship fund I established for promising athletes from underserved communities. A scholarship fund. Angela's voice dripped disbelief. That convenient. That real. 5 other kids are in the program right now. 2 are already being scouted by college teams. It exists because I got lucky and decided to use that luck for something meaningful. Angela studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to Darius. This what you want? I don't know. Darius's honesty was refreshing. It sounds impossible. Impossible is kicking a can and dreaming it's a World Cup ball, Angela said quietly. Maybe impossible is exactly what we need. Chapter 5. The Academy. The Marcus Kane Athletic Academy sat on 50 acres outside Detroit, a world away from the crumbling streets where Marcus had found Darius. State-of-the-art facilities, professional coaching staff, dormitories that felt more like college housing than anything resembling poverty. Darius stepped out of Marcus's car and stared, overwhelmed. "This is where you'll live during the program," Marcus explained, watching the boy process. "School's integrated, academics in the morning, training in the afternoon. Weekends you can go home if you want, or stay and practice. I can leave whenever." The question revealed Darius's fear of being trapped. Whenever. This is opportunity, not prison. Marcus led him toward the main building, where other students were finishing their afternoon session. "But I'll be honest, it's hard. The coaches push. The academics are college prep level. Some kids wash out because they're not ready for the discipline." Inside, they met Coach Stevens, 60 years old, weathered and sharp-eyed, a man who'd developed 3 current professional soccer players and dozens of college athletes. He assessed Darius with the clinical precision of someone who'd seen every type of potential and learned to separate real from imagined. "Marcus says you have raw talent. Let's see it." On the training field, Darius faced his first real test. Stevens put him through basic drills, dribbling, passing, shooting, while other students watched. Some were older, clearly more experienced, their skills honed by years of proper training. Darius stumbled at first, self-conscious and overwhelmed. Then Stevens threw him a ball and said simply, "Show me what you do on the street." Something unlocked. Darius began to move, and the control Marcus had witnessed with the crushed can emerged. He wasn't technically perfect. His form needed work, his understanding of formal tactics was non-existent, but the raw ability was undeniable. Spatial awareness, touch, creativity, the kind of natural feel for the ball that couldn't be taught. Stevens watched for 10 minutes, then nodded to Marcus. "He's got it. The gift. But gifts mean nothing without work." He turned to Darius. "You're talented, but you're years behind these other kids in technical development. Catching up will require more effort than you've ever given to anything. Are you ready for that?" Darius looked at Marcus, at Stevens, at the facility that represented everything he'd never dared hope for. "Yes." "Then welcome to the Academy. Tomorrow, 5 a.m., we start building you into something real." Chapter 6. The Struggle. The first month nearly broke him. Darius woke at 5 for conditioning that left him vomiting in bushes. He attended classes where the coursework assumed educational foundations he'd never received. He trained with kids whose skills made his look primitive, whose families had invested thousands in private coaching since they were toddlers. Marcus visited twice weekly, watching from the sidelines as Darius struggled. Some days the boy excelled, his natural talent shining through. Other days he looked lost, overwhelmed, a street kid playing at belonging somewhere he clearly didn't. "He's thinking about quitting," Coach Stevens told Marcus one evening. "I can see it, the frustration, the self-doubt. He's comparing himself to kids who've had every advantage while he had nothing. Should I talk to him?" "Only if you can remind him why he's here without making it about your rescue fantasy." The words stung because they were true. Marcus found Darius alone on the practice field after midnight, kicking balls at the goal with angry desperation. His shots were wild, technique abandoning him as emotion took over. "You're dropping your shoulder," Marcus called out. Darius spun, caught. "I can't sleep. Because you're frustrated. Because I'm failing." Darius's voice cracked. "Everyone here is better than me. They know plays I never heard of. They do tricks I can't figure out. I'm the charity case trying to keep up." Marcus walked onto the field. "You know what I see? A kid who learned to control a soccer ball by kicking cans for years, without coaching, without encouragement, without anyone telling him he was worth the effort. That's not weakness. That's the foundation of something rare. Raw talent don't matter if everyone else has raw talent, plus years of training. You're right. So stop trying to catch up to where they are now. Focus on becoming who you can be." Marcus picked up a ball. "Stevens told me something when I first talked to him about you. He said natural ability is common. What's rare is the hunger to transform it into mastery. You've survived poverty. You can survive this." Darius wiped his eyes angrily. "What if I can't?" "Then you learn that failure isn't fatal, but giving up before you know what you're capable of. That's the only real failure." They practiced together until dawn, Marcus feeding him balls, Darius working on the technical deficiencies that separated potential from performance. By the time the sun rose, nothing had been solved, but something had shifted. The loneliness of struggle replaced by partnership. Chapter 7. The Breakthrough. 3 months into the program, something clicked. Darius stopped trying to be the other students and started becoming himself. His style was unorthodox. Street soccer mixed with formal technique, creativity that came from years of inventing games without rules or structure. Coach Stevens began building tactics around Darius's strengths instead of forcing him into traditional molds. The other students, initially dismissive of the scholarship kid from the hood, started watching him with grudging respect. He couldn't execute textbook plays, but he could create magic from chaos. The breakthrough came during an internal scrimmage. Darius received the ball in midfield, surrounded by 3 defenders. Traditional tactics said pass, recycle possession, build the attack methodically. Instead, Darius did something none of them expected. A move he'd developed, kicking cans, using his body to shield the ball while pivoting in a way that left all 3 defenders frozen. He emerged from the cluster with the ball still at his feet, saw the goalkeeper off his line, and chipped a shot from 30 yards that sailed perfectly into the upper corner. The field went silent, then erupted. Stevens smiled for the first time Marcus had ever seen. That's what raw talent looks like when you stop apologizing for it. College scouts began appearing at academy games. Darius was only 13, young for serious attention, but the soccer world noticed talent regardless of age. Marcus watched from the stands as his investment, no, his hope, began transforming into reality. But success brought new challenges. Darius's mother struggled with her son's growing absence. The neighborhood he'd left behind pulled at him during weekend visits. Friends who'd remained stuck in poverty looked at him differently, some proud, others resentful of the opportunities they'd never receive. "It's hard," Darius confided to Marcus one evening. "Being here, being there, feeling like I don't fit anywhere anymore." Marcus understood. "You're becoming someone new. That means leaving parts of yourself behind. It's necessary, but it's also painful. You ever regret it? Leaving where you came from?" "Every day." Marcus's honesty surprised them both. "But I'd regret not trying more. You're at the beginning of something extraordinary. Don't let guilt about success stop you from achieving it." Darius nodded, but his eyes held shadows that success couldn't quite dispel. The cost of transformation was becoming clear. You could leave poverty, but poverty never quite left you. Chapter 8. The Choice. At 15, Darius received his first professional interest. A European club wanted him for their youth academy. The offer was extraordinary. Training in Germany, education at an international school, a path to professional soccer that most American kids never accessed. It was everything Marcus had hoped for, and more. It was also terrifying. "I can't leave my mom," Darius said, staring at the contract that represented his dreams. "She's alone. My little sister needs me." Marcus sat across from him in the academy's conference room, lawyer present, future hanging in balance. "Your mother wants you to go." "I talked to her. She's scared, but she understands this is your chance." "My chance? What about hers? What about Maria?" Darius's younger sister, only 8, had become his responsibility in ways that broke Marcus's heart. "I leave. I'm abandoning them." "You leave. You're securing their future." Marcus pulled out financial projections. "The signing bonus alone is enough to move your family to a better neighborhood. The salary, even at youth level, will support them better than you ever could working in Detroit. You're not abandoning them. You're saving them. By leaving, by succeeding." The argument circled for hours. Angela joined by phone, her voice firm despite evident emotion. "Baby, you think I struggled this long to keep you trapped here? You got a gift. You insult that gift by refusing to use it. But Mom, but nothing. You go, you train, you become everything you're meant to be. Me and Maria, we'll be fine. We've been fine before. We'll be better than fine because we'll have you succeeding somewhere you got a real chance." In the end, Darius signed. But Marcus saw the guilt in those young eyes, the survivor's burden of escaping while others remained trapped. He'd carried that weight himself for decades. Watching Darius shoulder it felt like witnessing his own past replayed in someone else's life. The day Darius left for Germany, Marcus drove him to the airport. They didn't speak much. What was there to say? Opportunity and obligation had collided, and opportunity had won because it had to. But victory felt hollow, weighted with the knowledge that success always costs something. At the gate, Darius turned back. "What if I fail? Then you come home knowing you tried." "But Darius," Marcus gripped his shoulder, "you won't fail. You're too hungry, too talented, too much like I was." "That's supposed to be reassuring?" Marcus smiled sadly. "No, it's supposed to be honest." He watched Darius disappear into the terminal. This kid he'd found kicking cans on a forgotten street, now bound for a future that had seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. Chapter 9. The Distance. The first year in Germany nearly destroyed Darius. Language barriers, cultural differences, homesickness that ached like physical pain. All of it threatened to derail the dream Marcus had helped build. Phone calls between them became lifelines, Marcus offering encouragement across an ocean while Darius fought battles no 15-year-old should face alone. "I don't fit here," Darius said during one particularly difficult call. "The other kids, they've been in systems like this since they were 6. I'm always catching up, always behind." "You were always behind," Marcus reminded him. "That's not new. What's new is the platform you're on. Stop comparing your middle to their beginning." But distance made mentorship difficult. Marcus could offer words, but not presence. When Darius struggled with confidence, Marcus couldn't be there to watch him practice until dawn. When teammates excluded him, Marcus couldn't model how to build bridges. The relationship that had sustained them both began straining under miles and time zones. Then Marcus received a call from Darius's coach. "Your boy is special, raw still, unrefined, but special. We're moving him up to the U17 squad, youngest player in the academy to make that jump." Pride swelled, but so did concern. How's he handling it? Like someone who's carried weight his whole life, too serious, too isolated. He needs to learn to be a kid sometimes, not just an athlete building a career. Marcus thought about that. How poverty had stolen Darius's childhood long before soccer had. How responsibility had aged him prematurely, made him an adult before he'd finished being a child. Success was giving him opportunities but not innocence. That had been taken years ago by circumstance and necessity. "Talk to him," the coach urged. "He listens to you. Tell him it's okay to enjoy this, to have friends, to be 15 instead of constantly performing." But when Marcus tried, Darius resisted. "I can't relax. The moment I do, someone faster, stronger, hungrier takes my spot. You taught me that." Had he? Marcus searched his memory for lessons he'd shared, wisdom he'd offered. Maybe he had emphasized hunger and discipline without balancing it with joy and sustainability. Maybe he'd passed on his own obsessive drive without the wisdom he'd learned too late, that success without enjoyment was just another form of imprisonment. "I was wrong," Marcus said quietly, "or incomplete. Drive matters, but so does breathing. You can't sprint forever. Watch me." Chapter 10. The injury at 16. Playing for Germany's U17 national team in a qualifying match, Darius went down hard. Knee twisted unnaturally, ligaments screaming. The sound carried through the stadium, the silence afterward deafening. Marcus watched the live stream from Detroit, his stomach dropping as medical staff surrounded Darius's crumpled form. ACL tear, 6 months minimum recovery. For an athlete at Darius's level, potentially career-altering. Marcus was on a plane within hours. He found Darius in a German hospital room, leg immobilized, eyes hollow. The devastation went beyond physical. This was existential, the destruction of an identity built entirely on athletic performance. "It's over," Darius whispered. "Everything we built, done. It's an injury, serious, but treatable. You don't understand." Darius turned away. "There's 100 kids waiting for me to fail, waiting for my spot. 6 months they'll forget I existed." Marcus pulled a chair beside the bed. "And when I was 23, playing minor league basketball, I tore my Achilles. Doctors said I might never play again. Everyone told me to quit, move on, find a real career. But you recovered." "No, I never played professionally again. The injury ended that dream." Marcus let that sit. "But it didn't end me. I went to business school, built companies, created the life that eventually led me to you. The injury didn't destroy my future. It redirected it. So I should just give up soccer?" "No. You should stop defining yourself by a single path." Marcus leaned forward. "You're 16. You've already achieved things most people never dream of. If soccer continues, great. If it doesn't, you're educated, bilingual, disciplined, connected to networks most kids from your neighborhood never access. You've already won." Darius's eyes filled with tears. "But I wanted more." "I know, and you might still get it. ACL tears aren't career enders anymore. But they're also opportunities to rest, to reflect, to remember why you loved this before it became everything." Recovery was brutal. Physical therapy, psychological counseling, watching teammates play while he rehabbed. Marcus visited monthly, each trip showing him a kid transforming into a young man, grappling with adversity that matured him in ways success never could. "I'm scared," Darius admitted during one visit. "What if I come back and I'm not the same?" "You won't be. You'll be better. Mentally stronger, more complete." Marcus smiled. "The Darius I found was talented and hungry. The Darius recovering is talented, hungry, and wise. That's an upgrade." Chapter 11. The Return. 8 months after the injury, Darius returned to training. Not the same, his knee would never be exactly what it was, but functional, protected, capable. The coaching staff watched carefully, managing his minutes, monitoring for signs of re-injury. His first game back, Darius played 30 minutes. Tentative, cautious, clearly thinking about the knee instead of the game. But in the 75th minute, muscle memory overrode fear. He received the ball, made a cut that tested the rebuilt ligament, and felt it hold. Then another cut. Then the move that had defined his style, the can-kicking pivot that had been his signature since childhood. The goal that followed was beautiful. Marcus watched from the stands, tears streaming freely. Not because of the goal itself, but because of what it represented: resilience, determination, refusal to let circumstance define destiny. Darius had stared at career-ending injury and said, "Not yet." After the match, they sat in the stadium as it emptied. Darius, exhausted and exhilarated, finally allowed himself to believe the impossible might still be possible. "I want to give back," he said suddenly, "like you did. Find some kid kicking cans somewhere and show them what's possible." Marcus smiled. "You're 17. Focus on your own career first." "No, I mean eventually, when I'm established." Darius met his eyes. "You changed my life because Coach Williams changed yours. That debt keeps paying forward. I want to be part of that chain." "You already are, just by surviving what you've survived, by succeeding against odds that destroy most people. Kids from your neighborhood will hear your story and see possibility where they only saw dead ends." "It's not enough to be inspiration. I want to be intervention, like you were." Marcus recognized the determination in those words. This wasn't childish fantasy. This was purpose crystallizing. Darius had learned what Marcus had taken decades to understand. Success without service was empty. Achievement without legacy was hollow. Then do it, but do it wisely. Build your career first. Establish financial security. Then use that platform for something bigger. Darius nodded. but his eyes held the fire of someone who'd already decided. Marcus saw his younger self in that gaze, hungry, driven, carrying the weight of everyone left behind. The chain was continuing. Coach Williams to Marcus, Marcus to Darius, Darius to whoever came next. Pain and poverty and possibility, generation after generation, each lifting the next slightly higher. Chapter 12. The Legend. 5 years later, Marcus sat in a VIP box at a professional soccer stadium, watching Darius Torres make his debut for the US men's national team. 22 years old, recovered from injury, refined by experience. The kid from Detroit's forgotten streets playing on the world stage. The game was in Detroit. Darius had requested it, insisted on it. "I want to play where I'm from. Show kids in my old neighborhood that escape is possible." Marcus thought about that word, escape, as if poverty were a prison you had to break out of rather than a circumstance you transcended. Maybe Darius was right. Maybe it was both. Angela Torres sat beside Marcus, Maria next to her, no longer 8 but 13, thriving in the opportunities her brother's success had provided. They lived in a good neighborhood now, safe and stable, funded by Darius's professional contracts. But they remembered. When Darius scored, a goal that came from the same instinctive brilliance Marcus had seen in a boy kicking cans, the stadium exploded. But Marcus noticed something else. The way Darius pointed to the crowd after, specifically to a section where kids from local community centers sat in tickets he'd donated. The way he'd insisted part of his appearance fee go to rebuilding youth soccer programs in Detroit's most neglected neighborhoods. After the game, Marcus found Darius in the tunnel, surrounded by media but breaking away when he saw the man who'd changed everything. "You came. Wouldn't miss it." Marcus pulled him into a hug. "You were extraordinary. I was lucky you drove down that street. Lucky you stopped." "No, I was lucky. You were talented." Marcus smiled. "But I'll take credit for recognizing it." They laughed. This unlikely pair bound by a chance encounter and sustained by mutual belief. Darius had become exactly what Marcus hoped. Not just an athlete, but a human being aware of his fortune and determined to spread it. "I'm starting a foundation," Darius said. "Youth soccer development, academic support, mentorship. Everything you gave me, systematized for kids who need it. You're 22. Most kids your age are just starting careers. I'm not most kids. I'm the one who got out." Darius's voice steadied with purpose. "Now, I pull others through. That's how this works, right? The chain continues." Marcus nodded, unable to speak past emotion. He thought of Coach Williams, dead before he could see Marcus's success, of the boy kicking cans who'd become a young man changing lives, of the poverty that had tried to destroy them both and failed. "He'd be proud," Darius said, reading his mind. "Coach Williams, he'd be proud of what you built." "What we built," Marcus corrected. "I found talent. You did the impossible work of transforming it." They stood together as the stadium emptied, legend and mentor, bound by struggle and triumph. Outside, Detroit hummed with the same poverty that had tried to claim them both. But inside, in the space they'd created, hope blazed bright. The chain continued, and somewhere, another kid was kicking cans on a forgotten street, practicing for a future they couldn't yet imagine, waiting for someone to stop instead of driving past. Waiting for recognition that talent blooms everywhere, even, especially, where wealth refuses to look. Marcus had learned to stop. Darius had learned to become. Now it was their turn to teach others the same lessons. The legend wasn't finished. It was just beginning.